You had a great write-up in Barron's. We were just
it.
talking about it. Isn't that nice? Because they were featuring your call and your thoughts and your exclusive survey all about Square, which you like. You're saying it's a buy. Why?
Yes, absolutely. So I think Square is a real innovator and a real change in the payments industry. They're really the only company out there, and there's a lot of scarcity value on Square right now because their big competitors have been taken out by even bigger competitors. There's real value in this sort of closed-loop ecosystem that Square is trying to create. So they have the sellers on the one hand, which are basically the merchants, the cupcake stores, et cetera. They have the consumers on the other hand, which are the people that are using the Cash App. And our survey and our work shows that Cash App downloads and Cash App usage is on the rise.
Right.
And eventually, you're going to create this closed-loop ecosystem, which is very Apple-like, which pretty much no one other than Apple has been able to create. And this is a unique one in payments.
I want to get into the details of what you found and why you think this is a $100 price target. You call it a buy. Do you think that Square is, you said that some of the other competitors were taken over and absorbed into the bigger companies, such as whom? And do you think Square is a takeover target?
So this is a very interesting point. So the first thing is there has been about 4 or 5 public merchant acquirers. So Square is considered a merchant acquirer. So First Data, which we cover, was acquired by Fiserv. WorldPay was acquired by FIS, which is another payment processor, and TSYS was recently acquired by Global Payments. So there's been huge M&A in the industry over the last 6 months, just now. Now, whether or not Square is a takeover target, I think what you have to think is that Square offers a unique, full, closed-loop ecosystem that no one else other than Apple has there. So I'm not saying it's a takeover target by Apple, but I'm saying is it could be very attractive to a tech company eventually down the road that is looking to sort of recreate that closed-loop ecosystem.
Yeah, because it's, as you said, the cupcake store is using it.
Correct.
I go into a restaurant or a retailer, and they hand me this thing, and I, swipe my card somehow. And you're talking about this other area, 83% of instant deposit users. You have already used prepaid cards. You're seeing the growth.
Correct.
What's going on with Square with people actually using this as their bank almost?
Exactly. So it's become the interloopers, and Square is one of interloopers. There's other interloopers like Chime, for example, who are basically offering the app is becoming the bank for the underbanks. There's about 50 million underbanked, not unbanked, but underbanked in the US. They still have a bank account. So 95% of the people that we surveyed, of the 260 app users, actually have a bank account. But they're underbanks. That means that they're not getting the same services that you or I are getting from our bank, instead of in terms of a mortgage, et cetera. So what Square and these guys are offering is a fully fledged sort of banking opportunity with a growing engagement of these people that are using it. And
so
that's
you could do direct deposit right into Square.
Exactly.
And you expect that to grow?
That's what the survey is. That's what the survey is showing.
By how much? At what pace?
So what we actually found out in the survey, and that's the most interesting thing, the instant deposit that people are using. So Square charges 1.5% to deposit money from your app to your bank account. That is 2.7 times per month on average. I was shocked when I saw this statistic. So almost every 10 days or every week and a half, on average, people are actually using instant deposit. They're paying for it, per our survey, to transfer money from their app to their bank account. And that was a shocking statistic to me. And the other shocking statistic was that people are actually willing to take another 100 basis points price increase on average from 1.5 to 2.5. So those were the key findings.
So what's interesting is this is like, in this case, some of the lower half of America, right? People who are earning less that are doing this?
Correct.
But these are the people that also would do the prepaid cards, and they're willing to pay like a little fee to get that or something like that. Is that what's going on?
That's what the growth is
So
coming.
how do you compare Square to something like Venmo?
So again, going back to the work that we've done. So Venmo has a little bit of a different approach. And if you look at the work that we've done, it shows you that the engagement is higher amongst exactly what you said, lower income people. So we surveyed people with 50,000 and below annual income and 50,000 and above. And you're seeing that the vast majority of people that are using Square Cash App the most are the ones with the lower income. So it's almost like you have, and it's kind of a sad reality, but that's what it is, so 2 different demographics of people who are using those different apps.
Were you being conservative when you put a $100 price target on this?
I
like
hope so.
deep down in your heart, were you
Yes.
like, this is not $100 stock? I mean, this is really more. It's more, but I got to put it in writing, so I'm gonna make it $100. Did you really think it should be valued more than that?
I think 100 is hopefully just a stepping stone for this stock. I mean, if you think about the innovators in the space and
Yeah.
the number of people who are actually innovating at Square constantly, I think it's a huge competitive advantage over the others. So over time, you're going to see more and more products that we don't even know of today, which could potentially create upside to our price targets long term.
It's unbelievable. And the whole space. I mean, I know you don't cover
Sure.
PayPal, but I mean, you can talk to the space. This is
Yeah, of
your
course.
expertise. Square, PayPal, and Visa all up more than 30% this year. MasterCard up more than 40%. So many of the guests who come on here pick Visa because they think that the consumer is strong and they're just going to keep using all these types of
Right.
things. I mean, where do you stand in that kind of outlook?
Sure. So what's interesting in this space is the TAM is massive, right? So you have multiple.
Sorry, the what?
The TAM, the total addressable
Right.
market, is massive. And if you think about the world, the way the world works today is everything still goes around the network, at least in North America and in Europe. So Visa and
Yeah.
MasterCard are still in the middle. Now, I'm not saying it's going to change, but if you look at some other countries like China, most transactions are done on a QR code, so they're done around the networks. So what I'm trying to say is the value of the Square or the Squares of the world, and the reason there's just so much runway, is because if someone's actually able to create that closed loop ecosystem, there's
Right.
a lot of market share that can be taken eventually from those bigger networks. So what
Right.
the
So that's more like a Square.
that's more
network,
like a
right? What
Square,
you're
and
saying in China.
even a Venmo, et cetera. But that's an interesting trend, and that's why I like this sector and I like this stock so much,
Right.
because there's just not just cash to card, but beyond cash to card, there is so much opportunity to take share from banks, to take share from payroll. So Square is now competing for, they have a payroll opportunity. So you can compete with like the ADPs of the world and the Paychecks of the world. So there's a huge TAM that's up for grabs that Square is actually materially taking share from, and that's
Right.
the opportunity.
And the $100 is probably just a stepping stone.
I hope it's conservative.